Amazon certainly rollicking along both India and globally. Moving on, Chandra, there's one e-commerce column that kept social media buzz all week. It has to be saving private Flipkart. I remember the time when I called you up in the middle of the night to read it, which appeared on Founding Fuel, a learning platform for entrepreneurs. The author, Haresh Chawla, a partner at private equity firm India Value Fund Advisors, set the cat among the pigeons by predicting that Amazon will beat Flipkart in months from now. While views on that continue to stay divided, we're now being joined by the man himself, and we are really going to question his assumptions in this particular interview. Haresh, thank you so much for taking time out to be with us here on 80 Now Startup Central. Lot of divided views coming in for what you wrote. I quite enjoyed the article per se, I have to say, but help us understand the data, the arguments that you used to make that bold prediction that Amazon is months away from overtaking Flipkart.
So, okay, let me put it this way. I think it's clear from even just basic usage of these apps and asking people around that Amazon has been quietly gaining market share. And frankly, if you talk to a few people in the logistics space who actually handle shipments, and one of the ET journalists has also done that, Madhav has done that, I think, day before yesterday, you'll get a sense of how Flipkart has probably not grown as much as it should have, and Amazon has actually gained a lot of market share. Now, people have relied on older reports like Morgan Stanley came out with numbers, and those numbers are clearly they're completely and utterly wrong. And it was amazing to even see these e-commerce companies like Flipkart and Snapdeal talk about $10 billion in revenue in 2016, whereas they are nowhere near the numbers. So actually, it's quite. It just requires a little bit of exploration and stepping back away from the noise that the press releases and the company talk that's coming out, to step back and start asking a few more questions, and the data comes out. And I think that many tech journalists will now put out the real data for everybody to see.
Harish, but what you say both in terms of user experience, the shipments, I mean, all this is, more of anecdotal evidence. Is that enough to really make a prediction that, the pecking order will change and change permanently at that?
Yeah, sure. So I think people are taking my article completely out of context if it's about number one. I don't think the issue is number one. The issue is that market share of these players is what's reported is completely wrong, and the market share is going through a massive shift. And if these companies do not actually tighten their belts and get into the act, they will actually lose their first position. So actually that's what the context of the piece was. And the fact is that if you look at some of these companies, they have a large part of the portion of the gross merchandise value coming out of selling smartphones, which are a great way to generate GMV. So maybe GMV itself is not a great metric to decide whether a company is number one or number two. But the context was that we have a situation here where the kind of money that's being blown up in this space is not giving the returns that it should to these enterprises, and they should start looking at how they run their businesses and come up with a better plan. Now, the second part of the story is that they are now fighting strategics. So you have a set of companies that are backed by VCs that have got a limited horizon on the capital, and against companies which have got infinite, amount of capital, actually infinite period that they can continue investing in India. That mindset difference is what's going to change the market share as we go along as well.
Haresh, a reason why Amazon has managed to stay so laser focused on the customer and why Flipkart had to look at more short-term metrics like GMV is also the kind of investors they have. How much blame should the VCs and investors really take if Flipkart has been too growth focused? Because at the end of the day, both of us know that GMV is what dictates the valuations here in India.
See, I don't think it's a blame game at all. The fact is that Amazon wrote the playbook for e-commerce about 15 years ago. Everybody, Amazon, Alibaba, any e-commerce player in the world knows that it's a very thin margin business you're in. Now, if you end up taking your investor money and spending it in creating overheads that probably will never pay off, that's where the issue comes in. How much of investment has gone into creating a loyalty program for customers? How much has gone into creating a credit program for customers? How much has gone into actually Indianizing the business, which is creating a vernacular version of your website, or allowing creating buying guides? And a lot of Indian consumers are going to first time buy several products in their life. Who's going to tell them this story? So if all your money has only gone into either building overhead or passing on discounts, This is what's going to happen. I don't think VCs ever dictated what to do with their money. Therefore, not the blame actually, the whole issue actually lies with the way you build your business, and that lies only with the founders. Of course, VCs had put this pressure that you show me GMV growth, but I don't think any VC would walk in and say build overheads or build customer loyalty or retention rates that are so low.
Harish, granted that, Flipkart can't beat Amazon using Amazon's business model, but if there are levers that Flipkart can still use to its advantage, the local player advantage, what would that be?
Now again, see, I cannot be sitting in this place and trying to figure out what Flipkart should have done, but I can tell you what it could have done. And some of the things are very obvious. I mean, they've been around in the business for 8 years. There were many things they could have done on the payment space to build. They could have built a loyalty program. They could have created a credit. I mean, there was no need for me to just keep on pushing out COD. Frankly, for a certain set of heavy customers or Flipkart first customer, they could have just billed me once a month. So there are several small things that could have been done, which could have all added up to a very unique experience with some of these websites. Again, there is no language being used. India is not just an English country. There is Hindi, there is Tamil, there is scores of languages in which you could have created content, and scores of languages in which you could have created even buying guides for products. So I just talked about that Indian consumers need handholding and support on how to buy, what to buy. And that pre-purchase process, nobody seems to have attacked very well at all. And even just to continue, maybe an investment in offline retail could have helped them. India has actually a retail market. The offline brick and mortar retail is at a nascent stage, and therefore a combination of offline retail, let's say Flipkart stores, and an online presence would have probably given them much more of a moat to defend. Or even a shopping channel, for example. Another easy way to reach out to millions of people, stamp your brand in their lives and make sure you buy loyalty.
All right, Harish, we'll keep that debate which has largely been around Flipkart versus Amazon aside for just a bit. Tell us what happened to the likes of, say, Snapdeal, which Amazon just overtook just a couple of days ago to become the second largest e-commerce player in the country, and for the matter, even ShopClues.
So I have not had a look at the numbers of these players, but my understanding is Snapdeal is also in a bit of a spot here because its overheads are actually as high in comparison to the GMV they generate, though they've been a marketplace for a while. And ShopClues, of course, is a different story. It's got a low overhead operation going. It's been a pure marketplace, but it trades in essentially largely low value products. So it's a different story out there. I think this last 6 months of resetting of the entire funding in the market, plus the fact that slowly everybody is realizing that the cost of getting an Indian consumer to come onto your website, to transact and then to retain them are very high. So I think some of these realities have come to light only in the past 6 months, and that's going to really cause a lot of pain in these companies for a temporary period. I believe it will come back to them taking some hard decisions in the next few months, and hopefully they will find fresh investors who will come in probably at different valuations, but who will come in with a much more solid company with solid unit economics to back. So I'm a complete believer in this story. I think people can again take it out of context that I don't believe in Flipkart. I'm a great fan of their business, but I think the way the situation is, if they don't set things right now, they may be in a bigger soup as they go along.
Harish, let's talk about the other gorilla then, and obviously Alibaba. I mean, it's very clear India is going to be a big market for them. There's of course no clarity on whether it's going to be organic through an acquisition. That's something that we are still waiting for. But how is that going to change the dynamics?
See, my sense is the new e-commerce policy has made it difficult for an organic play to begin now, because to some degree, I think Flipkart, Snapdeal are in a great zone today because of the new policy. They have already built a certain engine and a certain scale, and with the new policy, a new entrant will find it difficult to just come and buy market share. So in a sense, in that limited sense, their moats are intact. However, the moats are not intact from the other end, where their overheads are large, where their customer retention efficiencies are low. So in a sense, at least one side of the battle has been settled with the new policy. So what could happen is that Alibaba may not make an organic play. They will probably would find it better to come and buy an existing player, which could be any of these 3 or 4 companies that we talked about. And that's how the battle will probably play out. And for Alibaba and Amazon, I don't think there is any doubt that India is going to be one of their most strategic markets to invest in. China is off the plate, as we all know, for most Western companies. And Alibaba will also look to actually hedge its bet in India. So yes, over a period of time, the battle could be between these 2 companies.
Harish, finally, before we let you go, I have just one last thing to ask you. We've covered the online players. What about the offline ones? As the way this battle is playing out, I mean, the likes of Biryani's the Future Group. I met the entire retail community, the offline retail community, when the recent clarification in FDI and e-commerce norms came out. They seemed quite happy. Tell us, how do you see them featuring when this battle is playing out?
If I was an offline player, I'll be, happy for a few days only, because I think offline continues to have its challenges. Rentals are high. People have got into the habit of looking for prices online, and therefore I don't think it's put them in a much better situation. What's going to happen now is how they play. At least they've got some breathing room to actually restructure their own businesses, make them more efficient, find a way to create some omni-channel presence where consumers can actually buy online from their warehouses directly as well. So my sense is the battle is still on. I don't think the battle between online and offline is easy. It's going to become any easier for offline. Offline is in a spot that's going to keep on getting tougher as consumers find more choices, more selection, and frankly more loyalty. I mean, if you imagine all these e-commerce companies actually get their act together and create a nice loyalty program for their consumers, chances are consumers will find it much easier to sit at home and buy. So that's a reality that's facing offline. What's happening is this crazy pummeling that was happening, and this entire distortion of prices that was happening, that's going to go away, and that gives them some breathing room.
Thanks so much, Harish, for really taking out time and taking us through not just your arguments on Flipkart, but the broader e-commerce space.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow, and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.